Hello, and thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to this presentation on the Terms and Conditions section of the Priceline.com website. I will be discussing whether or not the terms and conditions are actually a contract between Priceline and its site users. It doesn't matter whether or not a visitor has affirmatively assented to the terms and conditions by clicking an I agree icon or something similar. What are the user's obligations under the terms and conditions? What are Priceline's obligations under the terms and conditions? And if any statements in the agreements are unenforceable, and if so, why? And the final portion will cover some recommended changes to the terms and conditions. To begin with, before we can discuss whether or not the agreement is a valid contract or not, we need to first look at what a contract is. According to Cornell University Law School, a contract is an agreement creating obligations enforceable by law. Basic elements of a contract are mutual assent, consideration, capacity, and legality. The important part here is the mutual assent. We can assume that Priceline accepts the terms and conditions since they are the ones who posted it on their website. But when it comes to the users of the website, unless you can prove that they accepted the terms and conditions, then there is no contract. As for this area, I would simply require that all site users be required to read and accept the terms and conditions before moving past the home page of the website. This would ensure that both parties have agreed to the terms, and it would convert the simple document into a true contract. When it comes to the importance of a visitor's affirmative assent to or not to terms and conditions, both the public and the courts have disagreed on this point. I would highly suggest getting an affirmative assent in some manner, be it an I agree button or something else of that nature, and not use the simple but common statement that use implies agreement. By getting the assent, there will be no argument later that the terms were not seen. In these terms and conditions, the overwhelming majority of responsibility falls on the part of the user, while little or no responsibility is being taken by Priceline.com. The user is responsible for ensuring that all information entered on the website is correct, complete, and accurate, complying with the 14 different provisions of the acceptable use portion of the terms of service, notifying Priceline of any unauthorized activity on their accounts. The users are solely responsible for the security of their accounts, though, and the users are also bound by the agreement even if Priceline terminates their account or access. For their part, Priceline is required to provide very little according to their terms and conditions. They agree to provide a website, but will not guarantee the site or portions of the site will operate effectively. They will store personal information about the users, but Priceline makes no representation or warranty with regard to the sufficiency of the security measures that are used for data handling and storage, and will not be held responsible for any actual or consequential damages that result from a lapse in security or technical malfunction. In this day and age, with all the news stories of companies and even the government having security breaches and technical malfunctions that release the public's information, this is just bad business. Well, Priceline does state that it will respond to requests from its users. It also states that it will make no guarantees about the timeline for those responses. As you can see, most the Priceline's obligations under the terms and conditions provide them with many different outs from being forced to take the burden of responsibility. When it comes to the enforceability question of the agreement, there are some areas that are questionable, but the most problematic section would be Section S, the miscellaneous section, that states that the agreements presented are only for convenience and do not in any way limit or otherwise define the terms and provisions of this agreement. This section also includes language that allows Priceline to unilaterally change the terms and conditions of use of the website by updating or posting them to the website. These types of statements and activities have been struck down in multiple court rulings, including Douglas v. Talk America in 2007, and again in Harris v. Blockbuster Inc. in 2009. In the second case, the court actually threw out the mandatory arbitration clause of the terms of use used by Blockbuster. The final area that makes this provision most troublesome from an enforcement standpoint is the statement that if any provision of this agreement is determined to be unenforceable or invalid, such provision shall nonetheless be enforced to the fullest extent permitted by applicable law. By stating this, Priceline says that no matter what, we are going to enforce this, even if it is determined to be unenforceable. These reasons alone bring the whole agreement's enforceability into question. Now that we know the issues with the terms and conditions, what can we do to improve the terms and conditions? First, I would require that all users of the website be required to read and accept the terms of use before proceeding further into the website, and that all changes to the terms and conditions re-trigger the requirement to accept the terms and conditions. Second, as a way to ensure the company does not suffer from a major PR nightmare, if there were a security breach that compromised personal information of the site's users, I would recommend that the wording in the privacy policy portion be updated to state that Priceline will take at least partial or limited liability or responsibility for security breaches that result in loss of personal information. This is a trust builder with the public and also ensures that Priceline will have an incentive to maintain their system's security. The final area that I would recommend changes in is Section O, the modification, termination of usage. I would recommend the portion that states that any service or product available through the site and or your profile or account password may be changed, modified, or suspended with or without notification to the user be changed or removed to state that notification will be sent to the user. This will prevent possible conflict and in fact is a much better business practice. Informing your customers of when things change. Shocking, isn't it? By implementing these changes to Priceline's terms and conditions, Priceline will have a better terms and conditions and not simply an agreement with their visitors, but an actual contract that can be used in a court of law if needed. These changes would also bring Priceline into better line with many better business practices and would ensure that there would be fewer issues with users, especially those that could result in damaging public relations nightmares if security breaches occur or a customer complains either on the internet or to the press about Priceline arbitrarily changing their travel arrangements without even notifying them. Again, I would like to thank you for taking your time and viewing this presentation.